Hello. I'm taking off my shoes. This is Alexa Hampton, and this is 52 Weeks of Design Live. And now you don't need to take that door anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
And today I am inviting Barrie Benson to join me. And I'm sorry I'm late. She's tremendously gracious, allowing me to get stuck in traffic. Okay. I'm going to try that again. Invite Barrie. She and I just got off the phone, so we knew that. Here we go. Invite again. Oh, it says Barrie Benson. Benson, I beg your pardon. What am I saying? Is unable to join. Okay. We're going to fix this. Hello. Okay, I'm going to try again. Barrie Benson. She's
I got it.
Hi!
Hi.
I briefly made you Marissa Berenson's love child.
I think I joined the chat, but not joined to talk to you. I think I was on watching you, but I was not.
You were like, look at this fool.
I know. It was like, I know. I was getting a few texts from other people saying you are not on right now.
And yet now you are.
I am.
So how are you? Look, you've got your beautiful Peg Norris butterflies behind you.
I do. It's really, the rest of the office is so dirty that we just sort of narrow focus.
Narrow focus. That's how we like it. Okay, so before we get into Peg Norris, we got to go back. Where are you from? Are you a native?
I'm pretty. I was born in North Carolina, lived in Virginia for about, 14 years, in South Virginia, in Franklin, Virginia, a tiny little town, and then moved to South Carolina. So I've been circling Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, but back in North Carolina, probably definitely the longest part of my life. And my mom and dad are from North Carolina, so
you're Carolinian of some.
Carolinian.
Were your parents interested in design, furniture?
None of it. Absolutely not. I think that was probably why I needed to have, that's why I had such an interest in it, because we had some pretty furniture from my grandmother and, inherited, but it was never a focus of my mom's. It was just sort of what she received.
Or your father's.
Or my father's. Just what we received. It was sort of put in the living room and the den. And then when I got to about 13, I started moving things around just because I needed my space to look a little bit more decorated.
You were unhappy with
the way things looked. And I think,
what you had been provided.
I was at a sort of boondoggle with Urban Electric and Spoleto, and I was around quite a few designers, and I talked about it with Mark Sykes, and there are quite a few designers from really tiny towns. We sort of figured out, our theory was we were just itching to get out, and any kind of design inspiration from an early age was sort of what we were clawing for. And I think that was sort of me. I was just like, I poured over magazines, books, and things, the normal thing where you just want to.
Yeah, it's so great. I talk to my kids all the time, and they have no idea what they want to do. So, and nor should they. They're really, really young. But it is so great when you do know what you want to do.
I mean, I don't think I knew what I wanted to do. I thought the normal path was to go to business school or to law school, and that would have been a tragic. Maybe business school I would have stumbled through, but law school, to take a lot of information and put it down into a small amount of words, is not probably what I would be especially good at.
Yeah, well, that sounds more like stenography.
Yes, exactly.
So did you study it in school? I mean, I know you did eventually.
Eventually. So I started out very, sorry, there are a few people walking around.
My dog will make his.
I know. I mean, usually my dogs are around, but I get a little distracted. So I started out doing, I was a history major and an art major at a place called Furman University, which is in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina. I took a class, and I took a foreign study program in Cortona, Italy, and took an interior design class and an art history class. And from my junior year on, I knew what I wanted to do. But before then, I just loved art. I loved studying art history. I was sort of focused more in a history on a historical preservation level. Like every kind of paper I could write about old houses or anything.
Sense. You still have a hand in a lot of that.
Yes, exactly. And I think that it's informed a lot of what I do. I love the mix. I mean, I love, we live in a 50s modern house, yet I want to be able to collect old furniture. I just don't want to be pinned anywhere for this. I don't want to have to do one thing or the other. And so when we bought this house, I was pregnant with my son, who's now 20. I sort of looked around at all the B&B Italia and all these other things, thinking that I needed to make it just strictly modern. And I think that's where the mix came in, because I was like, well, I want to be able to make sure everything's balanced. So I would get one thing that was a bit modern, and then know that I wanted to put the secretary in, or know that I wanted to do an old Venetian chandelier, or I think the balance became sort of my obsession.
How long were you in business when you got the ranch house?
I had been in business, so I started out doing hospitality design for Hirsch-Bedner. It's a huge interior design hospitality firm out of design school. After I went to Furman, I went back to school at Georgia and got an interior design degree. And right out of school, I started working for a large interior design firm called Hirsch-Bedner. They had offices in LA, Atlanta, Hong Kong, London, and we did hotels all over the world. So it was such a fun job. And it was a lot of historical research to do the hotel. It was a lot of American hotel brands in Germany, or the Park Hyatt in Germany, or the Park Hyatt in Istanbul, or the Four Seasons in Istanbul. So it was really fun to sort of like apply my historical
Four Seasons
background.
in Istanbul?
Excuse me?
Did you say the Four Seasons in Istanbul?
I stayed there. I did not do it, but we were all of the furniture we were designing was in Ankara, outside of Istanbul. So I got to stay in the Four Seasons.
In the finished product. I have heard of its beauty. I have historically stayed at the Chiran Palace.
Ooh,
but
pretty.
I remember when they were working on the Four Seasons and everyone being like, "What? Buckle up, everybody!"
Well, the craziest story, I was sort of the first hire from this firm, and so everybody was just so busy. The project manager on this job that I was doing in Germany had 3 other jobs, and she was like, "Who wants to go to Turkey?" And I was like, "I'll go to Turkey." And then we realized that the whole place was completely booked, and the only place that was available was the presidential suite in the Four Seasons. And I was like, well, I've got to go, don't I? So I got to stay.
I'm doing it, yes, for virtuous reasons. You have to stay in the presidential suite.
So that might have been the most extravagant thing. I mean, I was making like $18,000 a year, and I was not dressed to be in the presidential suite, but boy, I had a fun time that night.
How exciting to be bebopping all over the place, doing that kind of work. And logistically, I would assume that's super tough. Here comes the dog from his walk. He's going to
Oh, I
attack.
can't wait.
Hi! 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 He's very excited. So yeah, how did you, were you just thrown in?
I
Or
was
did
just,
you
I was thrown
start
in.
as a second?
I mean, I was 24, 25, and I had to pick the entire art package for the hotel. I think it was just, I'm trying to think, it's 94, 95 is when things just went crazy and boomed. And so I was just not afraid, and I was willing to sort of jump in, and I wanted to travel anytime I could. And not everybody was like that. And so they just sort of, I mean, I definitely I can only imagine what that art package looks like. I'm sure it's not there anymore because hotels lifespans don't last very long, but it was so fun. I learned so much. I mean, I just sort of followed people around at the Cologne art fair that I thought looked a little chic and asked them where they were going to pick art, what galleries they were going to. And then one person led to another, and the whole project was like that. But I also had a really good boss who was very, trusting and, gave a lot of independence to me. So it was a fun first job.
As you said, you had begun as a student of history and art history. What's your happy space in art history?
It travels around. I mean, I do feel like I really love modern and contemporary works, just because I think there's so much behind the scenes and so much involved in what they're doing. And right now, behind me is a artist. We collaborate with a lot of living artists for Peg Norris, and it's really fun to be able to celebrate what they're doing. They've worked on this work for, they've progressed to this kind of art their whole entire art careers, and to really understand their story and what makes them tick and their color stories, and just be able to help them alter it for wallpaper or fabric or anything else. I mean, right now we've just done wallpaper. We're about to do more fabrics and things like that. But that's just really a fun part, is understanding where their inspiration is coming from. Sometimes it's technique, sometimes it's, history, sometimes I just think that's really interesting. And I think probably because I did so much work in Renaissance and also every stage of it, I think, right now that all the history professors always sort of rush through that end of the contemporary modern era. So I knew less about it because it was never
more mysteries to hold for you.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on Gothic cathedrals and, Renaissance art, but I think they started realizing at the end of the term that they had to speed up. So those last 150 years were very quick.
I wonder if they were waiting to see who stood the test of time or not.
Yeah, maybe so.
Like, well, we know Michelangelo is not coming out of this in a bad way. Yeah. So when you left HBA, they do call themselves HBA, don't they?
Yeah, they do. That's a lot easier to say than Hirschfedner.
Yes, I think I did something with or adjacent in Shanghai with HBA.
Oh, cool.
They have a lot of work in Shanghai, don't they?
Yeah, they're that Hong Kong office. My office was more like Europe, but in the South, and I think the Hong Kong office and the San Francisco office did more, or LA office did more of that.
Yes, I do think it was the LA office to whom I was speaking. But so when you left there, where'd you go?
So during that time, I started doing a few of my friends' older sisters and brothers started asking for advice in Atlanta, and they were moving out to these, from these small bungalows to these enormous houses outside of Atlanta. Yes. And so I started doing a little bit on the side, and at HBA, it's 70 to 80 hour work week. So it got really crazy really fast. And I started realizing, I was drawing so much. I would draw 9 months of the year, and then, 2 months was decorating, and I really loved doing the executive suites and the presidential suites and the restaurants, but you know, the back of house and the detail drawing, although I'm so grateful that I have that experience.
Oh yeah.
Because I can draw, you know, I can draw anything, but it was more of, you know, it was chained to the desk is not where I like to be. And so
by the way, could you always draw, or
I could always sketch, but I definitely learned so much about all it. And this is at the time, the only thing we were doing on CAD was floor plans and elevations, or blocking out elevations. Mm-hmm. And I was more of a studio artist. I did a lot of the presentation elevations and some of the things like that. I love doing that, but to draw a section of an entry desk, or a bar detail, which again, I'm glad I know how to do.
Right. Hugely important, but but not the driving factor. Like, I want to draw bar details.
I know. And I'm grateful for it, because it led me to, you know, we had to draw a lot of the work because they weren't gonna, unfortunately, they were not gonna buy beautiful furniture from, you know, ADAC or, you know, New York Design Center. So a lot of things we had to draw custom. So I learned to do that. And that, I mean, I have a small line with Highland House furniture. So it was fun. And a lot of, I know you through Nathan, who was my rep at Hickory Chair before he became president at Highland House. And I always customized everything. And I think that's when he went over to Highland House, he thought, you know what, she knows how to,
Right.
how to
He knows what you're talking about. There he is right now, waving. Hi, Nathan.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Nathan.
Or maybe I don't know if he's waving or clapping. There's
anyway. I think he's in California right now.
Well, hey, Nathan, we miss you. So you're like, this is wonderful. It's given you tons of experience. It has taught you the ABCs. It has taught you logistics. It's shown you that you're brave enough to work in other cultures and potentially other, you know, where they speak other languages. So did you immediately open your own place after that, or did you go work for somebody else first?
No, so what I did is I was taking this. Have you ever heard of the Artist's Way book?
No.
It's an old book from the 90s, but anyway, it teaches you all these things about what you want in your life.
That makes me feel old. An old book from the 90s. Like,
I mean, I don't
how
know.
does that make sense?
But they're reviving it. It's a great book to have. It's a very interesting book. There are all these things. People who know, and you might need to pick it up. Not that you need to, but it's just an interesting book. But anyway, I went to a class. They said, if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I would teach in Cortona, where I went to learn interior design, where I first got excited, through Georgia. And at the end of class, they said, make 4 phone calls of what you want to do, you know, of this, you know, see if this can happen. And I thought, this is crazy. I have a job. I'm going to do this. I called the head of the department, and he says, well, if you can convince, you know, enough 15 people to sign up, then you can teach. So I quit my job and went to Italy for the summer to teach interior design. And after I came home, I started my own business.
And when you were, it's so amazing that you took interior design in Italy.
Isn't that crazy?
And then you mentioned the B&B Italia stuff. Yeah, that's really fascinating.
I mean, if you're going to try to figure out whether you want to be an interior designer, and you figure, you know, you go to Italy to explore it, you're going to come back probably choosing to do it. I mean, it was pretty
heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So you came. So somebody just asked it. You said it was called the Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way, and it's
the Artist.
Yeah, and I think they've just been. I mean, she's got an Instagram account, the woman who wrote it, and I cannot remember the name, the woman who wrote it, but some people, a lot of people know it. It was sort of a thing in the late 90s. People were reading it. It's all these explorations. Like, you have to spend a week not having any media. You can't turn on the radio. You can't turn on the TV. Now you can't turn on your phone probably. I don't know if
Back
anybody can do that anymore.
That was doable, right?
Yeah, we had no phones then, or we had one zipped up in the back of our car, right? If you had a Rolls Royce, you had one in your car.
Yeah, exactly. Which you will be surprised to know I did not. Oh, there goes the dog.
Maybe your dad did. I always imagine your dad being in like a Navy Rolls Royce, maybe.
My father would die to hear that. he was, you know, he had a Cadillac because his family would always, you know, American made. Mm-hmm. And he would frequently have a driver because he'd be working, and he would sit in the front with, yes, that big old toaster phone. Oh, Julia Cameron is the author.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing.
Laundry from Atlanta. I think maybe it was an Atlanta thing.
That book is having a moment.
It is. That's what
we're all going to run in, and so it all gives us exercises to do.
Yeah, and just explore things that you might want to do. I mean, I'm in a place, I mean, I love what I do. I love the projects I'm doing, but I also know there's a shift going on. There's some things that I like more than I used to, and there are things that I like less than I used to in my business. And so
is the shift happening, or is the shift in you?
Well, you know, I think the shift is in me, but I'm sure it will eventually happen just in more, I mean, the women in my office I've had women that's Elizabeth Dooley and Avery Costello, now Parcell, sorry about that. She just got married, both of them just got married. But they've been with me for 6 and 7 years, and, you know, they're fully able to do projects and do them as good, if not better than I am. And I definitely want to be in the creative area, but I'm doing a lot more troubleshooting and a lot more just sort of bringing my experience into the situation, but they are executing so much of the project. So it's leaving me to do things more like the Peg Norris stuff that I really love doing, working with the artists and exploring other things that I might like to do in the realm of interior design and art world.
Because troubleshooting does not sound like fun.
Well, troubleshooting is not terrible, but basically it's just saying all the mistakes that have happened in my life, and I know that this is where we don't want to go. Right. So, I mean, it's just sort of before any of the trouble happens, just sort of saying, let's not do that bar stool, or let's not do this, or, you know, just, I mean, I'm sure you do a little of that with your work. I mean, I think it's just.
I am feeling different as an older person. I felt the shift, a good shift of age. You know.
Well, I think what you're doing right now is exactly, you know, what, like the podcast and the 52 weeks of design. I think that is so interesting. I'm reading a lot of Arthur Brooks. I don't know if you've heard, he's a Harvard professor, and he's also writes for the Atlantic, and it's about.
I read the Atlantic all the time, so I guess I must have.
I bet you've read him. He talks about, you know, just how you shift in your work and things that are better for people who are, you know, going into their second phase of life. You're much younger. You're probably a lot younger than I am, but
well, I just turned 51 in April, so.
Well, you're the same. I'm the same age, so we're exactly the same age. So it's just interesting. It's interesting to sort of figure out what you really love about your job and sort of shift your business to that area.
You have brought in a lot of philanthropy into your life. Has that always been the case, or is that like within the past 5 years?
It's pretty much always been the case, just because I live in a small community, and we all, you know, it's part of the fabric of Charlotte. We're all doing that. I also go to a place up in New York called Chautauqua, New York, where it would
rise in artist communities.
Yes. So they wouldn't survive if they didn't have people giving back and trying to encourage other, you know, circle of life and bringing younger people to places. So yes, it's always been important. And also I think that it's part of, you know, just being an interior designer, we're servicing a very small portion of the country. or the demographic, and
yeah.
and I want, you know, I want to have impact in other areas. I noticed that you're on, I was just asked to do the intro,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think that was interesting. And Benjamin Reinhardt said that you wanted to add, you were the person who did the charity portion of it, which if anybody doesn't know what intro is, you can hire us for, you know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes. And one of the parts is, you know, one of the big areas of this is giving back to, you know, people, having more access for everybody to have interior designers, or at least get answers. And also your part about adding the charitable portion into it, and they credit you for that.
I did not dream of adding the charitable. I was curious, as of any tech company, what their sense of being good and doing good, not just doing good, which they do by having people earn money and put some of it to charity. But given that so many tech companies, especially that are the result of young people's imagination, I haven't always seen ahead and identified the pitfalls. So I was interested, like, what would you do if you had pitfalls? Like, you know, where are you in the community, and do you want to do good, kind of thing?
Yes.
Because obviously, as you called it, the second half of life.
I know. Am I making us sound so old? We're not.
No, but it's
saying that.
But I don't want to live till I'm 100. So please, God, don't let this just be the beginning of the second half. But yes, you don't want to, in this at full unequivocal adulthood, you don't want to be doing anything that is doing bad. You only want to, you know, rainbows and unicorns. If you're going to do it, you want good things associated with it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I just don't. I want more. I want more of an impact than make. I mean, I love making people's homes beautiful, but I want to leave things a little bit better than I left them in other areas, not just people's homes.
So you support, obviously now I know about Chautauqua, you support artists in Chautauqua, you support, I think, your symphony. Is that correct?
It used to be, I was very involved in the symphony about 5 years ago. I've rolled off, and now I'm working at our local museum, the Mint Museum, is I'm on the craft and design board there. So that's really interesting.
And then to give a little more explanation of what Peg Norris is to everybody, you saw an opportunity to help artists get their work in a different place that would help support them to pursue their art in its original place.
Yes.
So that was what, 2018. So you and, is it Chandra or Chandra?
Chandra Johnson.
Chandra.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I call her Shanny, so it's hard. I think it's Chandra.
Okay. So what, you and she are sitting one day and brainstorming, or?
I mean, honestly, we were doing, I was doing a piece of furniture for a chest for Highland House, and I'd already designed it, but I was obsessed with the Joseph Frank and the Fornasetti decoupage and painting on chests, and I thought this is an interesting way to like embellish this chest. It's very simple. I think it could lend itself to that. So I was looking for something, an artist that, you know, that sort of reminded me of that. And I walked into Soko Gallery. I'm Shanny's designer also. So we've been friends forever and also worked together. And I walked in, and this woman, Annie Lemansky, had this flora and fauna, these flora and fauna pieces that felt very, very exactly what I was looking for. It just didn't feel like I was copying Fornasetti or Joseph Frank, but it felt Southern. It also felt a little bit darker and a little bit meaner. And I thought, this is exactly what we need to do. And I called her, and she was willing to do it. She made these templates for the drawers. And then she also, this paper behind me, she had also done an installation at Penland in North Carolina, where she had downloaded and scanned these old botanical and flora books from over 100 years ago, which that's key because you can't do it if it's less than 100 years,
Yeah.
or you need a copyright for it. And she put them on board and bandsawed each piece, over 50,000 pieces, and put them all over the walls. And it was like the circle of life. So there were
how long did that take? Just
I mean, everything she does is like that. It's meticulous. It's very like, it's all about she dreams up these ways of how to create these animals. She's doing armatures of bunnies and deers, and and it's all made out of a printed vinyl that she stitches together and builds armature. That's what she's doing now. But she had leftover from this huge installation. She had sold parts of it, but she had probably 2,000 pieces left. And she said, well, I'll bring them for the installation at High Point. And so we put them all over. And as I was looking later on, people loved them and wanted to buy them. And I said, everybody wants to buy these. And Annie said, I will never cut another one out in my entire life. She had moved on. And so when I was looking through the pictures, I thought this would be the best wallpaper. And so I asked her if she would do it. She said, I have no time for it. I'm on to my next show. And I said, well, what if we did it? Like, what if you gave us all the information? What if we digitally cut them out, put them all together, and then you, based on your pictures, and then you at the last minute tweaked it. So that's what we did. And for her installation at SoCo, we put it in the bathroom and people went crazy about it. And I got so many interest in it and everybody wanted to buy it. And then the next time I was on a shoot with Dara and Shani, and she said, I was telling her, I was like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, everybody wants this paper, but we are not equipped to send all of this out. She goes, well, what if Schumacher did it?
she was like,
I was like, yes, we will do it. And so we did a contract, and she said, we said that we wanted to do other artists like this because it was such a great thing. One of the things Annie said, I said, well, what charity do you want to give? Like, I'm going to do a charitable portion. What do you think? She goes, how about the Annie Lemansky charity? I'm always writing for grants, and I need money for my next installations and all of the work. And that's where we thought, this is such a great thing for artists.
Yeah. And I also like that you worked off of what was a phase she felt was defunct in terms of, like she was done with it.
Yeah.
So you are not co-opting a moment in which she's working in her trajectory. You're not veering her away from fine art. You're just helping to feather the nest of
her next project. And I think that's one of our, when it became something, immediately when Schumacher wanted it, we thought, okay, well, this is sort of the idea. We cannot do anything, because a lot of the artists, they're at different phases in their career. We've got to make sure they're at the right part of their career. We don't want to produce anything that can be used as art instead of supporting the artist for their main thing. So it has to be
fascinating.
And it either has to be past work, or it has to be a different scale, or it has to be a different thing, and it can't be exploded into too much. I mean, people want to put it in different ways, like on a box or something, like a stationery or something like that. We're very careful about what we're going to do with these pieces, because we just want them to be, what they are, and then
nobody wants to Pierre Cardin it, like
Austin it.
Oh God, that documentary broke my heart.
It did.
But yeah, it's a real lesson, especially for people like us who are doing a lot of licensing. There is a place in this world for small batch, limited editions. There's that in-between space where you can, you're still offering things to a greater portion of the community, but it can still be like a little more special.
And I think a lot of wallpaper in the past has been inspired by artists that have been, working their whole life doing these things, and then someone comes in and creates a paper that looks like their artwork. And I think, it's an opportunity for these artist. I mean, I could never do anything this great. I mean, I could figure it out, but like this, she should get the credit for it. So that's the fun part about it.
That's wonderful. Are you, so you've got your day job and you are guiding, and you said you're getting really interested in this. What else is kind of catching your attention right now?
You know, I've worked on, I think it's creating furniture and creating hardware for, I've worked with Addison Weeks and Modern Matter. I think that is really fun for me, creating things that I know are missing in the design market. And I also think connecting and talking with other designers and hearing what's going on and how they're doing. I mean, spending a weekend with Urban Electric and Spoleto, Palmer and Young and Mark and Danielle and
Joy Moyler, wasn't she there?
Joy wasn't there. It was Sheila.
Where was Joy recently?
Sheila Bridges.
Joy.
I think she's in Milan.
She's in Milan.
She
I know she's on a trip. I know that woman's on the move.
Yeah, but it is really, I think just, you know, at 10 years ago, it would be very stressful to take those trips and to go away from the office and do that. But it's really nice getting to a place in my career where I can do that and also still have projects and have dip my toes in it and be very involved, but also be able to travel and be inspired. My kids are I'm almost an empty nester. I have a college freshman and a senior in high school. So it's been very busy for a while, and it continues to be busy, but it's also, they need me less. I just need to be there, almost like a troubleshooter.
Right. Yeah, actually, I used to be as much as I traveled for work and as much as I would hardcore tour on vacations with my family, these other trips like Salone, or I've never been to the Paris one. I've never been to any of them. I mean, I've been to
we should go to the Salone. I want to go to Salone. That is on my list.
Yeah, you worry that you're taking so much time. It's usually right after market, right near a spring break or something. And I mean, who can take all those weeks off?
I know.
However, having said that, I'm starting to believe, having gone to Parma this year for the first time, that the Marcantifiera, I hope I'm saying that right, that what you just said, like we need that inspiration, we need that meat, we need that input. And to that end, I am going to Paris for a day to see the Givenchy sale.
Oh, are you going
one night?
Soon, right?
Sunday. I fly out
awesome.
Sunday, land Monday, go back home Tuesday. But I just fear I cannot let that happen without having seen it in person. I feel like I'll regret it the rest of my life.
Okay, so I feel like I need to. How long is it? How long is it up?
Till the 14th.
I mean,
so hold on, I'll tell you right now. The sales are the 8th through the 23rd, and there's one on the 14th, and the 15th through the 17th. But the Exposition Pierre Berger is the 10th through the 14th.
I cannot wait to hear about it.
I can't wait. I can't wait either. But so yes, to your point about Salone, I will go with you because and Jim Druckman just told me recently that in addition to the obvious structured part of it, there are also shops that do pop-ups that they change their display every night.
Oh my God.
You wake up in the morning and you see all new things. So I didn't realize all of that. I didn't realize that the whole of Milan was taken over.
So do you know Chuck Tuning? Have you ever met Chuck Tuning before? He used to be with Hirsch Bedner, and he actually, when I was in Italy teaching, he had talked Hirschfedner into opening a Milan office because he wanted to go there. And so he was there, and he knows he lived there for 6 years. So he's the person to show us around. I think he's there now, but he's a great tour guide for Milan.
I'm in, but it is a commitment that we need to make. If it were just a party, you know, if it's the same group of decorators going from here to there to here to there, then it's a waste of time. But no, I mean, it's not a waste of time because it's good for the community to get together. But still, it doesn't have to be such an expensive and wild trip if that's the case.
Exactly. Well, I think I definitely, I mean, COVID all taught us just that we need the inspiration. There's only so many books and magazines and Instagram you can look at. It's not the same. So right before COVID, I went to Egypt with Grant Gibson puts together some small little 10-person
it's
trips.
the place I most want to go to in the whole world and has been for 15 years.
Yeah. I think it's time for you to travel. I think you have definitely.
I don't know. My kids are still in the thick of it. I had kids really late. So what was that like?
It was just amazing. I mean, it was December. It was December before the lockdown, and you know, it was just 10 interior designers, and maybe not all interior designers. It was all in the design focus. I mean, we just like sources of rugs, sources of printing, you know, going through tours, going through hotels, the food. It was just, and we stayed at this lovely, very small hotel that wasn't one of the grand palaces, and it was just such a great place. We did yoga in the morning. We had coffee and tea and
Coffee.
it was barely
yoga.
It was not yoga. It was barely stretching. Basically, you just like, it was just enough to get you
for the coffee.
it was about like that, but it was nice. I don't know. And I'm going to go to Egypt with him in March. So
Okay.
I can't wait. Oh, did I say Egypt? I went to India with him in December, and I'm going to Egypt in March. I'm sorry.
Egypt is the place I most want to go on earth, though. India's amazing. I mean, there's so many places to go.
I know. So I feel like I'm doing it a little
If
bit.
If I read that book, The Artist's Way, it would be, what do you want to do? My answer would be an heiress, eat cheese, and travel. I don't think I can make 3 calls to make that happen.
You never know. I bet you were a trailblazer. I bet you can figure it out.
Barrie, would you ever expand Peg Norris to encompass artists from abroad?
We would love to. I mean, I would love to. I think both of us, I think that I want to make more room for that. Right now, neither of us have more room to do that. We've got 3 more artists coming, probably 4 more artists. One debuting, and they said December of 23. So I would love to do more. I think we're, you know, we sort of research who we're thinking about, and then we're looking at their career, we're looking at what place they're in, but most people are so open to it. And I think it's partly because Shani is a gallerist and they know that she will take care of them. I think if a decorator came to them,
totally.
it's a different kind of thing. And I also think since we've started it, more and more artists are showing wallpapers, and they're wrapping rooms, and they're doing more of that, putting their art on top of their art. I think that is sort of a thing in the art world. So I think a lot of artists are more open.
I think it's great that you two collaborate, because they do need to know that they aren't going to be, you know, pulled into the world of decorative. You know, they're being enhanced, not baited and switched.
Exactly.
I know you think you're an artist, but you are now a wallpaper designer.
Exactly.
First of all, you and I would not think there was anything wrong with that. We'd be like, what's wrong with that? It's amazing.
I know. Some people most of them are so excited. I don't think there's anybody that we've asked that has said no. I mean, we're careful about it. We also want really easygoing people. That's part of the thing too. So do not come if you're not easy.
Great.
So,
How big is your office?
excuse me?
How big is your office?
We have probably 10 people working.
And how big is
part-time.
Peg Norris? Is it just the two of you?
It's actually it's Carson, who your team has been contacting. She helps me with publicity, and she sort of is in charge of Peg Norris. And then Shani, and then a woman from my office, Elizabeth Dooley, who helps with all of the InDesign and all of the coordination of how it turns into the wallpaper. So yeah, it's just 3, but she also doubles as a project manager. So we need to if we want to get bigger, we've got to have some permanent people doing it.
Big if.
It's a big if, yeah. We got to. We're sort of seeing. We're just starting to see numbers and the finances of it right now. You need quantity to make it work. So we really need to double and triple up the quantity so it starts paying for itself.
Yeah. So that's discouraging.
I know. I mean, it is really fun for the artists. They are getting the money, but we're, right now we're just we've got what, 20 SKUs or 25 SKUs. We need 100 SKUs to make it work. But that's part of it. It's just sort of looking at how it can turn into something.
I have such a push and pull relationship with the notion of just growth for growth's sake. I remember when I was in my 20s, I had a project in it was New Orleans or Houston, and there was a sign that said La Quinta opening a new hotel every week. And I was like, till when? Armageddon? Like, what? Like, where are you going with this? Like, really? Every week? Like, there's no end date at all? And especially when you're talking about artists and nurturing.
Yeah, you can't push that. So it's a good thing to have my business going on at the same time, because I don't want that to be,
the driving.
I don't want to be like, you have to get this done. I mean, usually artists are, preparing for a show or just finished one, and they have lots of things going on. So I don't want it to be pressure filled. And, the pace feels really good right now. But if I wanted to push more into Peg Norris, we would have to dedicate a little bit more staff to that. But I mean, with you about your, you probably, with Hickory Chair and a lot of your products, I mean, it's an addition to what you do, correct? It's not
the day job, in quotation marks. The day job is decorating.
Right.
Yeah. What's happened with you and your art, your drawing?
I do less and less. I mean, I feel like I always say when I go to Chautauqua for the summer, I really do go. I mean, I work remotely, but that's my place to recharge and to do.
How did you end up there?
My husband's family is from the Midwest. It's a very sort of started Midwestern part. It was started in the 1850s, and I think it's grown from there. People come from all over, but
it's Chautauqua, New York, is it not?
Chautauqua, New York, but it is far
it's right
south. No, it's closer to like Erie, Pennsylvania, and Buffalo and Toronto. So it takes 7.5 hours to get to New York City. So everybody's like, are you going to go in the city this summer? I'm like, well, if I want to fly there, but it is not upstate. So it feels more Midwestern. There are a lot of people coming from Cleveland, from Chicago, from Pittsburgh, and then, it's been around for 150 years. So people, their grandmothers might be from Cleveland or Pittsburgh, but their families are coming from California or Texas or Colorado.
Yeah.
but it was just it was a perfect antidote to Charlotte. Just like I'm very social. I work and in front of people all the time. Chautauqua is a little nerdy and a little educational. There are lectures all the time. I mean, I am in people are in socks and sandals and have backpacks and fanny packs, and they're
why socks and sandals? Why?
I don't know. I don't do it. But maybe I will. I don't know. It might be just really comfy. So it's just my point of it is I go there for just like a complete recharge. I'm listening to things that have nothing to do with design, but somehow, that you can always find a connection.
Just creativity and art and culture.
And to be with my family and to be able to cook and to, it's just a great place for us to sort of recharge and connect.
You mentioned that you go out all the time at home. How important do you think that
less
is?
And less.
Yeah. How important do you think that is for someone in our business? Like, I don't feel like I went out and socialized within the community until I was older. But now I understand the sense of community. Like, maybe 10 years ago, I started going out to a lot of events and realized like how much I loved everybody.
And I feel like it was when I started doing it more when my kids went to school. I feel like there was that age of around, I don't know, it happened for me around 29, 30, where more events, you're more philanthropic. It's good to meet people that way. It feels, you're supporting causes. You're also, doing things for your children's school. It's, and also High Point came into that. I started designing a line of furniture and it just got busier. I feel like after COVID, we sort of got a reset, and I feel like I'm a little bit choosier and I go out less now. I'm a little bit more careful to not spread myself so thin and choose the things that are important to me. But I have noticed, like, when you don't do those things, you're just not as in the conversation. I feel like it's, not that that's what I'm trying to do, but I do think that
that's an observation.
It's an observation. I just, I think it's different. I'm choosing different things that I'm interested in. I'm being a little bit more clear. And I think that's why the Artist Way is having a moment now, because I do think it helps you get very clear about what it is you want to support, rather than spreading yourself so thin, really choosing to support things and be around the community that feels the most authentic to you.
So you're saying you don't want to be in our community? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I do.
Sorry, it's just mean. The Artist Way kind of sounds like the Marie Kondo of a different era. Just the notion of going through things and sparking joy.
Yes.
So are you still in the 1950s ranch house? Big turn, big pivot. Sorry.
Yes. I'm still in the 1950s. And it's funny, my mother-in-law is moving into a retirement community, and her house is on a very large piece of property. And my husband and I had to decide whether, he's an architect, and we had to decide what we do. A lot of projects together, not exclusively, probably 20% of my work I work with him, which is fun. And we do such a great job doing things for other people, but when it's our house, it's a little.
That makes perfect sense.
So that just came. We've lived in this house forever. It is a very special house. We've loved every inch of it. It is. It just came. We just had to make the decision whether we were gonna. Her house wasn't. We were gonna either renovate it or knock it down and do a house. He's never done a house for us, and we've always thought this would be a great chance. But it was a little farther out of town and a little isolated, and I just thought, I don't know if that's just wasn't sure that's what I wanted to do. So we've been in this house for 20 years, and there's been some different iterations of it. Of course, we've renovated and things like that, but now it's sort of it's not a huge house, and it's sort of the perfect size for an empty nester. So it's, you know, we didn't sort of do the big push to a bigger house about 10 years ago when a lot of people did, and now it's sort of a perfect size.
Big push, but it didn't work. I was like, where's my house? Darn it. Are your kids in sync with your style, or will they one day, when asked about their youth, will they have gone the opposite way of you as you did from your parents?
It's interesting. I think my daughter is definitely more sort of design focused. She's looking at art schools, and she's very interested. She definitely has a specific, we've tried to do her, the women in the office have tried to help redo her room, and she is so specific about color. I'm like, she's not going to go for that green, I promise you. She's already said exactly what.
Did you fire her? Did you fire your daughter as a client?
What did you say? I couldn't hear you.
Did you fire your daughter as a client?
Yes, I know. And she always complains that she is the cobbler. She's a daughter of the cobbler that has no shoes, because she never gets, I mean, she's got a broken chandelier. Isn't that terrible? I know. I just
No, it's not terrible.
I just don't want to talk about it when I get home. I just don't want to have with the teenager.
Most kids don't have their rooms decorated for them. I mean,
yeah.
You know, they're either decorated by the parent for the parent, or they're not decorated.
And I've done teenagers. I mean, honestly, anytime we try to ask a teenager what they want for their room, they send me pictures of like a dorm room with a loft that is undecorated. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Let's just make it look, undecorated. And they end up putting posters or stickers or rearranging everything. So unless they have a really
crowd. And your son?
My son, he is less interested in that, except he's doing it. He was asking for a floor plan for his new apartment in New Orleans, because he didn't want the TV on his wall. He didn't want to be able to hear it. That was there was nothing about design. He just wanted a sofa, and he wanted to know if I had a sofa that he could use. And he also wanted to see if I could redesign the apartment so they wouldn't put the big flat screen TV on the wall that he was sleeping on. That's all he really cared about. So he is, I mean, I think he is less observant than my daughter. She's probably going to be in design, but you know, he could too. I have no idea. I mean, they were double doozied with design. So
there's no need for one's children to follow them, right? No. I mean, if I were a Rockefeller, by all means, I would want my kids to join the business, because there'd be a business that's so learnable. With design, there's the mystery portion of it that you can't just stamp and assume that it's gonna make sense.
There's no succession plan.
Yeah.
Do you think with your design background,
it's
design royalty? How about your kids?
I love saying that. I'm like, oh yes, I'm royalty.
You are design royalty. Do you see it in either of your children?
My kids are creative. That's not their dominant quality. But two of them can draw really well, but I don't have any interest in their going into the business. Or if it turned out to be something that they way down the road. It's kind of like, an actor not wanting their kids to go in. Like, if for some reason they've decided they want to do it, great. But it seems weird to turn it into a multi-generational. 2 generations is fine.
I do hear a friend, like my friend Palmer, who's out in San Francisco. She went to Wharton Business School and had no intention of doing anything with design, but her mom is Kathleen Rivers, did the Chautauqua Club, was a huge designer. And I think she finally just said, okay.
She succumbed.
Yes. She was like, she couldn't help it. So I do think there's a lot of stories like that where, you know, they think they're going in. Celery was the same way, I think. I mean,
Was she?
I think so. I think she wasn't planning on doing anything with design, and then all of a sudden she was like, okay.
I mean, that must have been a
Uncle.
click all of a sudden because she's been in it for a long time. She's younger.
She has, but I think it was
than
early
we are.
on. I think it was early on, but I do think she, you know, didn't go to college thinking that's what I want to do.
Yeah, she did not go to Harvard for decorating.
I don't think
For sure. Which is where she went. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you've got. So is the house in Chautauqua yours?
Yes, it's a Sears 1899 house, and it's very simple.
So cool.
Yeah, it's just the woodwork has never been painted. I wanted to paint it, but my husband was like, no, you can't. And I was going to wallpaper the whole thing. I was like, if I can't paint the trim, I'm going to wallpaper the whole thing. And we bought it sight unseen because I had had a ski accident and had all the surgery. So he had to go look at it for me. And I said, oh, I can't wait. Take these wallpapers, see if they look good with the trim. And he's like, well, can you wallpaper over bumpy walls? I said, what do you mean bumpy walls? He was like, there's horsehair walls, like stucco. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to sand down some of that because I have to have wallpaper. I'm not just going to do dark trim and
this isn't like
walls.
Logging cabin.
Yes, it wasn't quite like that, but it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just like there's one full bath and 4 half baths. And
but it's nice that you 4 half baths. That's so fascinating.
It's so,
but
I just put them in the closets.
It's nice that you have these two totally different experiences. Again, this is part of my big push that is not being, you know, I would love to have a country house so I could, or at least I like to say I would do it modern. I don't know, you know, we'll never know until that happens. But it's nice that you have these two totally different experiences. Is there a through line between the two houses?
I mean, I do think there's a color expression in both of them. I definitely think a pattern play with both of them, but I definitely feel like I've let my inner grandmother come out. I mean, honestly, again, if I had a totally decorated house in Chautauqua, I wouldn't have any friends because it's not the place to have I mean, cocktail hours on the porch is very simple. And, you know, most people's homes look like they found the furniture in their grandmother's attic. So that was a little bit.
I want you to know that if I were in Chautauqua, I would be your friend. Even if
I had a decorated house.
Yes. I would not be so shallow as to shun you for having interior design.
I think all of my dear friends, they are some of my favorite people in the world. They would not care if I had a decorated house, but definitely, I think it's just, you know, it's a 9-week season. It's a very small little time that we go up there, that everybody goes up there.
Right, it's about lavishness. It's about art.
It's about art, and it's about just being outside your house and going to all the things. Like, you're always like, dinner's fast because you've got to get to the opera, or you've got to get to the ballet or something like that. And you can cruise in the ballet or the opera, and if you're just like, it's in an amphitheater, you can walk out. So it's perfect for, you know, if you don't like the lecture, you can slip out.
That sounds like heaven.
It is heaven.
At 9 weeks, that's ballsy.
Well, I've never been able to go 9 weeks. The most we've ever gone is 7 because the kids go to school. It's a long time. It's a long time. I mean, I sort of, it was, you know, learning that artist way. That was a move to like go there. And it's, of course, a lot easier. When we first bought the house, they were sending me big FedExes of things, and we were talking on the phone, and I was emailing things, and, you know, of course, COVID work.
Sorry, somebody busted through.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think about the where interior design or decorating, whatever you want to call it? Where do you think it is right now? How do you feel about it? It's so everybody has access to it happily, but everyone also seems very interested in it right now. And also, you know, things take so long. Like, where are we? What's happening?
Right. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart. I mean, there's a lot of managing expectations right now. And, you know, a lot of people are like, I can't wait that long. And I wouldn't wait that long either, but it's just I mean, we're pivoting a lot. I would say pivot is a big word right now because we're constantly trying to find upholstery work rooms, and we're trying to, you know, it's okay if you have a long construction project, but if someone calls you and wants their house done and their house doesn't need any construction work, that's a little, people get a little restless there, especially that's usually like a house they're living in town. The in-town houses, when people call you and there's not a lot of construction to get to sort of make us look better.
Absolutely. I think that all the time. When a job is like, oh, we've got a 3-year building process, I'm like, huh, finally I'll be able to get my sofa like early.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think, you know, I do think we're catching up. We're doing a lot more custom work, and that's, you know, that speaks to what I've done my whole life, and it's easy for us. And we've got great people that have cabinet makers, and, you know, it makes us be a little bit more creative because we can change it for everyone. So I do think, and I think that helps because, you know, design is available to everyone, and people can really, you know, Instagram, I feel like people are recreating these rooms, and I think that's a little hard because a lot of what we do is people are coming to us and saying, oh, I just love this dark blue library. And sometimes you're just like, I cannot do another dark blue library. I mean, they're beautiful, but you want to, it's harder to shift all the time because things get trendy fast, and
right. Or you just want to be, that's something my father would talk about a lot, about clients coming to him with the expectation of having a room like something they'd seen and saying, I want this, and how to do that without redoing something. You know, like the cover of my first book, which is a green dining room, I've had somebody come to me and say, I want that room. And I'm like, oh, you know, like, what can I do to make it slightly different?
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. I mean, my personality is I want to do something different every time. So I'm trying to reinvent the wheel all the time, and I don't want to do the same.
Me either, but at the same time, like, you want it's a fine line.
But you also want to make the client happy. So yeah, it's a fine line, and eventually, you know, like if they're not willing to move, I mean, they're the boss, they're the client. Right. I will do it, but I won't do somebody's room. You know, I will not do that. I mean, that is no fun. And, but I do think, I'm not worried about the access because I feel like we're so specific about what we do. I mean, it's hard enough to nail it being a trained designer. I can't imagine how many mistakes. I mean, a lot. It's easy to make mistakes in our business. It's like ordering a wedding dress offline and expecting that you don't have to have it tailored or changed or anything. I mean,
thank heavens for us. Where would we be if
I know exactly. I guess I've just never worried that design was going to get to a point where we would be obsolete. I just don't think that'll ever happen.
No, I don't worry about that. But it's just funny. It's permutations. Every few years, it seems to flip and be something. You know, and obviously COVID had a huge hand in recasting it.
And I was thinking about that. I was always such a huge dark brown fan, mostly because of your dad. I mean, and I was talking to Dara from Schumacher the other day, and she's like, what if we added a little toast to that color? And I was like, toast, is that the new word for dark brown?
I know, I consider my walls toast. This is a lightly toasted wall.
That's a lightly, this was like, she was talking about dark toast.
She left it in the toaster too long.
Yeah, pizza oven toast.
A small sear. Yeah. Anyway, well, it has been so much fun talking to you. Thank you so much for letting me push back the time on you, not once but twice, Traffic was not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
And,
that is totally fun.
and I'm so incredibly jealous that you're going to Egypt in March. I almost want to scream at you, but I
Well, I
won't.
can't believe I told, yes, I mean, you just need to, you need to book it. You need to book it.
I do.
I know. But
Um,
I hope you have the, I'm so jealous of you going to see the Givenchy
there's
sale.
still time.
I know, there's
Still
still time. My kids and my family might,
It's
they
just
might fire me if I leave.
2
But
nights, 1 night of travel and 1 night away.
yeah, that
I'm
is a,
trying to,
call me when you
can see
get home.
I'm trying
I
to
did
manipulate you into going. But
I mean, don't think I'm not tempted. I mean, I will look at the plane flights.
you should. I just like, I was like, that's why I've got all these miles. I'm going to use them.
You're going to use them. It is not easy to get to Europe right now. I just bought a plane ticket home for my daughter, and it was.
Yeah. Well, I did do it on miles.
You did it on miles.
And I was like, yeah,
Good.
God wants me there.
We'll have the best time, and I can't wait to see what. Hopefully, you get a great piece.
Oh, no. I'm sure I can't afford a single thing that will come out of that sale. I just need to see it.
You need
I
to
just
see
need to ingest the inspiration in person.
Awesome.
And I guess I'll see you at market, won't I?
Yes, definitely. We'll be at market.
Okay. I will make a point of coming to visit you,
And I will make a point. I always come to see what you're doing, but I would love to see you for more.
All right. Well, Theodore Alexander will welcome you, and I will go see you and Nathan at Highland House. And thank you again for being so flexible and so delightful.
I know, this was so fun. Thank you. I'm so flattered you called.
Thank you. Bye.